Well, truth, lies, and a setup. Well, I'll be chatting, recapping, reviewing right after this. Hey y'all, welcome back. Welcome back to part two of the Real Housewives of New Jersey's reunion. Now, if you hadn't had an opportunity to catch the part one, I did do a live earlier today. So make sure you get an opportunity to go out there and take a watch and listen to that. I have so many questions, and I really would like to know your thoughts about how the reunion started off with part one and just, several things that I had wanted to get your opinions on. So go ahead and feel free to go out and take a look out to that video and leave your comments regarding the reunion part one and what you thought about it. Okay, make sure you leave those in the comment section. I am so glad that you are back. I am glad to be back. Tonight is going to be a heavy hitter for this evening as well, because we have a Vanderpump Rules, the part three final part, I believe, right, of their reunion. So I'm excited for that. I have Tyler Perry's sisters coming on tonight, so I'm excited about that. I'm also watching the Buffy Vampire Slayer rehash as well. So I'm having a good old time on Wednesday evenings. But we are going to be talking about RHO and J. Now, if you did see my part one, you also would have seen that I had covered quite a bit about what happened in part one. I think we really got an opportunity to run the gamut and really see exactly what is going on with these ladies, and just seeing how everybody, and I want to get my picture up there, but I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll have to see. Maybe not. It doesn't look like it wants to come up. Don't you just hate when that happens? Definitely want to and sometimes the connection goes bad, but I definitely wanted to kind of go over and talk about what has been going on. We're going to try this one more time to pull this picture up, because I like to have a picture. Can you see it? Oh, I'm so upset about that. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do it here. Oh my goodness. Well, you can always definitely take a look at the first one and see what's happening on that one. Let me see if we can try it on this option here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Oh, well, I don't want to take the time to have to go back and pull it back up and whatnot. It just doesn't want to work. So sometimes it is what it is. But let's just get into it, okay? So because I went through the beginning and was able to really give a whole good assessment of the climate of how things are going, a lot of the opening stories that's been happening with all the ladies, I think we have a good idea of how this reunion is going, right? So in part two, I want to really dive into the more major highlighted issues with the ladies and kind of just focus on that, because I really want to give your ideas and your commentary about that as well. What do you think about some of these things? Because I thought there was a lot of eye-opening situations that developed and just dropped in our lap on last night's part two. So starting it off, the part two obviously continued on with the bickering, arguing between Teresa and Melissa, still discussing and disagreeing on the fact of whether or not Melissa and Joe was hanging out with friends of the enemy, really, right? Looking more or less about it, have they been hanging out with the individuals that were responsible or to blame for why Teresa was incarcerated? Now, of course, Andy made sure to drop in there and say, look, let's not forget, okay, the reason why you wound up in the place you were in was because of Joe, your ex. And she took that on the chin, right? She agreed with it. Yeah, that is. I mean, obviously, the situations that was going on there is what landed her in the place that she was in. And so we went from the point of, well, Melissa and Joe was probably the ones that actually sent Teresa to jail, to now she's trying to, reframe her words and saying, the issue really is that they were hanging out with them, and, that was a no-no. You shouldn't have been doing that, and you're trying to hurt us. I mean, that's usually the stages of conversation with Teresa in regards to Melissa and Joe. something is happening. They did something, they're trying to hurt him, right? Now, of course, Melissa's like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know anything about anyone that would have been in that position. We don't know any of Joe's ex or former business partners or anything to that nature. So, of course, Teresa says, well, Joe knows, Joe being her brother. So, there is really no peace on that point. I guess you kind of stand where you stand. It would be interesting to see if Jacqueline and her husband Chris would come on and talk about that some more, but I don't feel that that's going to happen, because that's who she is saying, she being Teresa, that she got that information from. She said Jacqueline was the one that was sharing that information to her, that they were getting a bit cozy, they were friends and they were hanging out and all that kind of jazz. She said also too, in the midst of all the arguing, that Chris had told her as well. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see if we should see a return for Jacqueline or any type of narrative provided by Jacqueline about that situation, because that's pretty strong accusations, and, we'll have to see it. I remember when Jacqueline was on many moons ago, and the amount of vitriol that Teresa threw at her and Caroline at the like in regards to everything that was going on before Teresa went away. And then after Teresa got back, Teresa was done with Jacqueline. Okay. As far as we knew it, they were never going to be friends again. So I was really surprised to hear about their reconciliation, and the timing of it is pretty interesting too. But maybe it just kind of is one of those things where they just said, we've been friends for so long, we don't want to keep fighting about this, let's just move on. So maybe that's what happened. They just decided to move on. I hope that's true, but I do wonder, right? So at this point, they're really not going anywhere with this argument. So we leave it as where it stands. But we do parlay into Jacqueline apparently speaking through text, that is. Now, apparently a year ago, and this was prior to the reconciliation between Teresa and Jacqueline, Melissa has been given some information by way of text that Jacqueline has shared to Jackie Goldschneider about her feelings about Teresa. And let me tell you, and if you had watched it, you will know that those words were very unflattering for Teresa. It was just whole bars, almost in a way that I could see Jacqueline saying those things, but I don't know. I still was a little shocked, because I remember Jacqueline sometimes being a little bit, reserved until she was pushed up against the wall, really. And at this point, maybe that's where she's at. We don't really know, but apparently, Jacqueline, we are to believe that Jackie has forwarded to Melissa for Melissa to share with the rest of the cast members, because it's being thrown in Melissa's space that they're the ones that said, hey, this is what you and my brother were doing by hanging out with the enemy. So again, it was very unflattering. She talked about her plastic surgery. She talked about how nasty she is. Jacqueline further, and this is all in the text now. So we'll say alleged, because we don't really 100% know, right? We can assume it looked like it was, possibly, legitimate, but, sometimes you never know, right? But according to the text, it was saying that all kinds of horrible things about Teresa. And most importantly, really the fact that she's able to get away with being so nasty to people, and how she doesn't know how Teresa's able to continue moving forward after doing those types of things. And I was really shocked at all of the vitriol that was coming out of there. And I was even more shocked that Teresa did not seem to have any type of phase about this. Now, I get it. I've heard that they, in their reconciliation, they apparently said, hey, look, whatever you said, I'm going to forgive. And whatever I said, you're going to forgive. But, we all know Teresa never forgives. So at the end of the day, I wonder, again, what is the motivation behind that? Is it possible that we're going to see a return to Jacqueline, or at least a request for Jacqueline to return back to Real Housewives of New Jersey? Now, I had mentioned it on my Jacqueline Speaks video that I think that it would be lovely if Jacqueline came back. I like Jacqueline, and I did like their relationship, but I was okay either way, right? But I also felt that she was enjoyable to watch. So her and her family, I enjoyed it all. It was great. It was wonderful. So I'm wondering, are you wondering, do you think she's coming back? I don't know, because Teresa has already put it out there. Melissa ain't coming back. So we'll have to see how that goes. But you let me know in the comment section or in the chat if you're watching live. Now, as that is kind of wrapping up, because again, it's another argument that really is going nowhere, even after all of the vitriol things that was said. But, of course, Teresa, who feels all of a sudden cleansed and namaste, she shares that, well, had Jacqueline called you woman of the night. And at this point, Melissa is just not really that phased. She's like, oh, okay, whatever, so whether that's true or not, hyperbole, don't really know. But at the end of the day, I do recall that, there were times when Melissa and Jacqueline kind of went after each other as well. And I was a little surprised about that. But it was when Melissa and Teresa, unless if you can think of any other times, let me know in the chat or in the comment section. But it was when Melissa was on par with Teresa, trying to support Teresa, and her and Jacqueline were going at it. And she was trying to tell Jacqueline basically to stop what you're doing, stop coming after Teresa, stop nagging her, stop talking about these things. She doesn't want to talk about it. You remember when Jacqueline had riled off on that huff in that one parking lot? This last time we saw her before, just maybe shortly, a couple years ago, maybe when she started coming up on social media and stuff, we started seeing more about her. But yeah, she rode off to the sunset. She was done with the show, and that was it. I don't think we saw anything else about Jacqueline, and she didn't go to the reunion. So it's interesting to see how that does phase through. But, we get in through that, and we kind of take a little bit of a byway stop to Rachel for Rachel's story. I really do like Rachel's story. I like Rachel Fuda. I really did. I've always said that I cared. I thought she was a great addition to the show. I appreciate her ability to kind of get in there and mix it up a little bit and do what she needs to do, but still staying somewhat true to herself. And I appreciate that. She seems very level-headed to me. Again, Danielle coming at her all the time. Not really sure what that was about, but at the end of the day, that's what she wanted to do. That's what she did. Now, Rachel was asked by Andy how she felt about, filming with a newborn, a 2-year-old. And of course, that's going to touch Andy's heart because Andy has 2 little ones, as we all know. And, she said, look, it was challenging. She's glad she had the help. She was very thankful for the help. And quite frankly, she didn't have a nanny. And he says, well, why don't you have a nanny? She said, look, I want to be able to have that more hands-on with my children. I really rather have someone do the cooking and the cleaning and that kind of stuff while I spend more time with them, because I already feel guilty as it is. And of course, Andy says, you may feel guilty. She's like, I'm sorry. But it was a sweet, parent moment. And I think that was great. And then we go into the adoption story, which I thought was a very sweet story to tell. I really appreciated the honesty and transparency that seemed to come out of that story. I like their family, Rachel, and I can't think of her husband's name right now, so forgive me. I'll know it for next roundup. And but yeah, but I remember her son. His name is Jaden. And I think that, their relationship is so sweet, and he's so ingratiated into the family naturally because Rachel's been with her husband for a very long time, and she's always looked at Jaden as just, like one of her own, really. She's treated him that way, and he's received that love in that way. And he is ecstatic and was ecstatic about the adoption going through. He was fine with it. I think that Rachel did such a lovely job at making sure she talked with him about it, got his opinion, his feelings, his thoughts, and was basically also said, look, no hard feelings. If you don't want to move through with this, I'll understand. And I think that was really, really special. And Jaden's like, no, this is what I want. I want to be part of this family. I want you to be my mother. So therefore, that is what has happened. So that was a congratulations to Rachel and her family. I think that is a beautiful story. I want to see more about their story, more about them as a family. I am ready for Rachel to be back for next season as well. So I'm really happy about that. Things really went nicely in that fashion. It seemed like it didn't take very long either, but of course it wasn't without its hiccups, because there has been information over the last few weeks as well talking about Jaden's biological mother and her being brought up into the fold. And also conversation was asked in regards to her talking to the blogs. And that was something that was quite interesting, how that kind of resurfaced. Well, Rachel had it on, I guess, good authority and on a trusted source, not someone on the cast, that Jaden's biological mother was actually contacted by Louis. Interesting. And information that was shared to her is that they knew about what prison she went to, and I guess maybe more stuff about her situation, which is like, why are we doing this? Why are we digging up information like this? Because, Louis decided it was going to be a great idea to go get a private investigation because his stuff is all out in the wind. Everybody else's stuff must be too. Now, here's the deal. If it authentically comes out that way, fine. It is what it is. It's reality TV. But I am not here for the getting private investigators to go and try to dig up dirt and use it for whatever they want to, just to use it as part of their arsenal to keep them away from being able to take responsibility for the actions that they do. I'm not here for that. So if they're looking to take down this show, that's, for me, in my opinion, one way they will do it. You start bringing in the private investigators, I'm out of here because I'm not here for that. I want to be enjoying my time watching The Real Housewives. I used to always enjoy enjoy, and I would like to continue that. I don't want to see a bunch of maniacal ways of handling the situations. I don't want to see Louis' face every time I'm seeing the other ladies. I think he needs to be spending more time with the men and less time in trying to be up in there with the ladies. I get that he wants to back up Teresa. I don't have a problem with people backing up their spouses. If it's necessary, more than power to it. But when you start bringing in the investigators or anybody to kind of use as a threaten someone, allegedly, then I have a problem with that myself. And that's not something I'm interested in watching. That's not entertaining to me. Just as like it's not entertaining to me when I start to find out that maybe storylines are being crafted so that way other individuals are not having their full life shown as much as they are going after someone else's life. And one thing about going after people's marriages, it's never get you anywhere. It doesn't get you anywhere. If they're a happy family, you saying the stupid stuff you're saying isn't going to change that. So I'm not here for all of that. I think it's going to be a bad recipe for that situation if Louis is allowed to run wild by doing these kind of things and doing all this threatening. And let's face it, one thing I also like about the Real Housewives of New Jersey is I love the men participation on that show. There is a man almost, I think, for everybody on there, and I appreciate them because they're husbands and they're being there to support their wives. And I appreciate the relationships even that they have, because sometimes it's nice to get a break, right? Whenever the ladies are being a little bit too catty, it's nice to see the men doing something fun or stupid and you get a laugh and it's okay. It's not so emotionally tied to things that don't make any sense, i.e. like Danielle and Rachel's fight. But we already covered that, so we're not going to go any more deeper. But if you haven't gotten a chance to see about that, check out my part 1 live recap. Now, I thought that was quite interesting that he was putting out the people allegedly. Okay, I'm going to say allegedly because I think we're going to find out more in regards to that in the part 3. And so Louis is going to have an opportunity to answer for himself. So he may decide to say, look, I didn't do that, but we'll see what happens, right? So we're just going to say allegedly at this time. But apparently that's what's going on. And I think it was despicable. If that's the case, or if anyone is doing it in place of and saying that this is for him or support of him or any of that nonsense, I think it's despicable. I really do think it's despicable. And if somebody was doing that to Teresa, she would have an absolute fit and conniption. And you think that she's telling, sayonara to Melissa, she was saying a lot more if somebody was doing that to her. So I'm not thrilled with that at all. I think it's ridiculous. Convoluted and diluted, and a lot of it don't even make any sense. Margaret's like, feel like you think I'm some kind of wizard here, like I've got all these magical powers. I don't know everything about everybody, and I don't go calling everybody about everybody. Who's got the time for that? Doesn't Margaret own a whole business? I mean, people have things to do, right? We got households to run and all that kind of stuff. We just don't have time to be doing that kind of silly stuff. But nevertheless, it was brought up, so we'll see how that goes on. Now, a question was asked if Jaden had any more contact or is in contact with his birth mother. And as far as up to this point anyways, Rachel says, hey, he doesn't have any interest in speaking to his birth mother. I do think that's really sad, but at the end of the day, she did adopt him. So, obviously there was issues that got them to that point. So at this point, I just wish his birth mother well. I definitely wish them well. And hopefully they'll be able to move forward in peace and harmony and happiness in the desire of what Jaden has said himself that he wanted, as much as Rachel wanted it also for the family. And of course, let's not forget the husband. I'm sure he wants it too. So it's really sweet. It's really nice. So now we are moving on. We are going on to Jackie and Jen Fessler. Now I have to say, I told you I enjoy Jackie. I absolutely adore Jackie. I wish Jackie would come back. Jackie looked great. She looked absolutely stunning. She really did. She looked good. She looked happy. She looked, just really awake and put together, just happy. She looked happy, and she's a beautiful girl, and it really just, her light was just glowing, and I'm just so happy for her. She seems happy. She says she feels healthier. She is healthier. She's been going through her journey. It's been a journey. We all know about the struggles that she's dealt with her eating disorder, and I think that she has been so transparent and open to us as an audience and to the ladies. And she didn't have to do that, but I'm pretty sure, and I do hope anyways, I pray that has helped someone who may be going through that same thing. And I appreciate that she did that. She looks great. She really does. And she's showing you how it is. Now, she talks about the fact of, how things came about for her being a friend to the show. Andy asked, how do you feel about being a friend to the show? She said it was a little bit difficult, at least at first, because she was kind of new into her real recovery, right? That new phase of her journey, of her recovery. And of course, when it came down to talking about the cast members stuff, I kind of have a feeling that Jackie was going to be asked to come back full time. And I would have loved that. I know there was a lot of back and forth about that with amongst people, that they didn't know whether or not she would be asked back, wonder what her storyline would be. Is it all going to be about the eating disorder? Is it going to be about something else? We didn't really know. So at the end of the day, that was kind of up in the air. But I kind of get the feeling, the vibe rather, that, yeah, it was probably going to work out for her to come back full time. But she had maybe made a choice to come back as a friend, try to come back, in little spurts, because she was really struggling at the time, and she wasn't in the best of places. And I think that was good for her health, and she was happy for that decision. And also in the meantime, she got to write a book. And I think that was great. Look, Miss Jackie is very accomplished. I believe she's an attorney as well, right? A licensed attorney. I don't know if she does. I don't think she's a practicing attorney, but she definitely is a licensed attorney, and obviously an author as well, and other things, because she did blogging and all that stuff. I mean, she had a lot of things going on. So I really did appreciate the update with Miss Jackie. I think she looks great, and it was wonderful. Her book was called The Weight of Beautiful, and I think that was a really nice title. So did Andy, and we moved on. Now, going on to Jen Fessler. Jen Fessler, I loved Jen Fessler. She was really a breath of fresh air. I need to say that really carefully, because you saw how Teresa switched that around, right? Well, Jen was kind of the levity that the show needed a lot of the times, to be honest with you, because there were some dark moments, right? There were some really heavy situations that was going on throughout the season. And Jen had a good laugh and a good something to say to you that made sense and was funny. And she was just really, I like her. She's a great balancer. And I think that her being a friend or full-time would be all right with me too. I like Jen. And as long as she doesn't change on that front, we're going to be okay. Now, interesting enough, of course, she looks great. I thought she looked great on the regular season as well, but she's made some changes, as we all saw. She's lost some weight, changed her nose, changed her hair. She looks great, and she feels great, and she, just as witty as ever. But she did share that she had gotten some backlash about the fact that she had shared that she had had relations with Mr. Tony Soprano. And I thought, wow, why would anybody have anything negative to say about that? And it really seemed to focus on the fact that they felt she was nothing but an old hag. And okay. Interesting enough. Now, these are her words, right? Now, she said, look, I thought I was okay. I mean, when she, had her time with her, she was in her 20s. People felt that because he has passed on, may he continue to rest in peace, that he was not here to be able to really defend himself, I think she said, or state, whether or not this was true or not. And I just thought that, wow. I mean, I don't know why she would lie about that. I don't think she is lying about that. And quite frankly, when she said that they had, had a moment together, I believe it. I can see it. I mean, and what a lot of fun they probably had too, because Jen is fun. She really is. So nevertheless, she also wanted to make sure she looked great. I think she did. She accomplished that because, hey, look, she didn't know she's going to be asked back again. Which tells me she wants to come back. Now, her and Margaret are very close friends. So I like that dynamic, and I want them to stay friends. I'm not with the whole we're friends, and then as soon as we get on the show, or the show comes to be a part of the situation, and now we hate each other, like this whole Laura situation. Laura is like the ghost cast member, right? She's the one that's kind of feeding out all of the drama, and all the women are pretty much interacting to that situation, but yet she doesn't even have to be on the show. I wonder if she's getting paid. What do you think? Because quite frankly, all of the stuff that she's talking about, it's been pretty much farther for all of the ladies, and it's caused some issues. But yeah, so at the end of the day, Jen is doing great. She looks great. Jackie's doing great. She looks great. And it was really fun to see both those ladies. Their exit stage left. There was a little bit more conversation with Jackie. Some of the same silly stuff that Teresa was bringing up in the past about things that were being said and who said what. I don't even remember what it was. It wasn't even that important. So we're going to move on. Then we get to see a clip about the men getting ready, which I am ready for part 3. Because I'm ready for the battle or royale that's about to happen with the men, because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on there. But you see, everybody's kind of getting game face on, ready to go. And Louis, he's walking around with no shirt on, so he's ready to go. Okay. But yeah, everybody else is, this is what they're used to. And there's only a couple of people that are on there that is the first time, but they're pretty easygoing guys anyways. And that's both Danielle and Rachel's husband. So, we'll see how everything goes up next week. I am ready for that. I'm excited for that. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be very, 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 let's say festive. Maybe not so celebratorial, but it'll be festive nevertheless. Now, we are moving on to the biggest drop of tea I felt, anyways, and it was the setup. Was she or wasn't she set up? Oh my gosh, what did you guys think about that? Do you think that Danielle was set up? I kind of think she was. And look, Jen was behind that, and Teresa maybe behind it too. But Jen is the one that carried the bones, right? She's the one that went over there and carried that information to her, knowing that she had already told Melissa about what was going on, and knowing that Melissa had already said she already knew. So why did it have to be brought up? Why did it have to come out on the screen for everybody to see? For what reason? This is what I'm talking about with Jen. At the end of the day, you have no problem throwing daggers at other people's marriages, but boy, did you lose your mind when an actual truthful situation about yours comes to light. And it's only because you kept on throwing daggers at another cast member, being Margaret. So whether you like Margaret here or not, bottom line is she shut that down, didn't she? I don't think we've heard anything else really, unless Jen lost her mind again, but not as much as she was doing, going after Margaret and her marriage anymore. It is what it is. Let's stop it. Let's be done with it. But Danielle, who tried to hold that trooper line, right? Because she definitely wants to be friends with Teresa. She definitely wants to be in that camp. So she's got to be cool with Jen, and she's got to be cool with Teresa. And I don't know what Dolores was doing and saying half the time. I'm going to blame it on the fact that Dolores was happy in love. Because I'm telling you what, some of the things that Dolores was saying, and just where she didn't really want to say something, just really blew my mind. Did I mention that back when they were talking about Jacqueline and how she spoke, that Dolores had made mention the fact that Melissa should sleep with one eye open? Did I say that? And then also that, oh yeah, Melissa's going to get it now, or something to that effect. Like, get what? What's going to happen? What is Jacqueline going to do? I mean, honestly, what is there to do? Say that I didn't say it? Either you said it or you did say it. Or you're going to go after Jackie. Jackie can take care of herself. Jackie Goldsteiner, that is. So at the end of the day, if Jacqueline said it, she needs to own up to it. But at the end of the day, if they're so reconciled, then what difference does it make? Because from what I heard, and if this is true, we'll say it's alleged, that apparently they buried the hatchet. Whatever I said about you is done. Whatever you said is done. So it shouldn't be any issue. But the whole sleeping one eye open and coming after her, like, girl, please. If nothing else, you just created another storyline. And I'm okay with that too. So that, and as you can see, Melissa wasn't really fronting about that. But let's go back on over to Danielle and her setup. So basically what we hear, because Andy puts it out there, and I love it. This was great. This is what we need to know. And Jen had some moments where she was like, oh my God, am I going to hear? But she always found a way to get up out of the conversation, no matter how silly it sounded. But she was questioned about the fact, didn't you already know about this situation? Didn't you already tell Melissa about this? So why did you feel the need to tell Danielle about it, for Danielle to confront Melissa? Because you knew eventually that's what was going to happen. And really all Jen could say was, well, the narrative was going that way. What? Because as you can remember, on the season finale, which somebody, I guess, had to put out a zinger, and that was the one that was chosen to have. See, this is what I'm talking about. Putting these little groups together, deciding who we're going to attack. I'm not here for it. But it is what's happening. So we're going to have to watch it and listen and talk about it, right? I want to know your thoughts. Do you think Danielle was set up? Let me know in the comments or the chat if you're watching live. Let me know what you think about if whether or not Danielle was set up or not. I say she was, and I really would have appreciated if she just owned up to it at that point. It's okay to say, you know what, y'all set me up. But see, I think she's trying to figure out whose side am I going to be friends with if I come back next season, right? Because her and Margaret, I mean, I don't know. That don't seem like a relationship that is it repairable? Maybe so. But right now, I don't think that's where she wants to land. She likes Melissa, but I really think she wants to be with Teresa because Teresa's seen as the queen bee, I think, of the show for the most part. Even though some of us may not feel that way about Teresa, that is what it is. She is one of the OGs of the show. And, that's it. You can't take that away from Teresa. So, she wants to be part of that camp, and or she just doesn't want to go against her. I don't know. And quite frankly, I honest with you, I don't think Danielle could handle it. I don't. I know that she's told about her story about being bullied as a kid, and it was a very, very touching story. And I was glad that she heard her voice, got her voice, and now she uses her voice. But I kind of feel like she doesn't want to go up against Teresa in any capacity. So we'll see. Maybe she'll change my mind on that. But nevertheless, she comes out and says, I don't think I was set up. I think that I took the information I did with the information that what I wanted and felt was the right thing to do, which was come to talk to Melissa. No, dear, you were not told about the process to get there. And yes, on its face, you going to talk to her because you thought you guys were friends and you didn't want to be in her face, keying about whatever and knowing this information. Fine, that's one thing. But the bottom line, it's not change the fact. It does not even mitigate the fact that you were set up. That's it. You were set up. Of course, Jen, who's running out of things to say, says, look, I didn't mean for that to happen. As she put her little, because she got that crick in her neck. But I didn't mean for it to come out that way or done that way. But here's the thing. Jen had an opportunity at the party to let her know when Danielle said to her, I'm going to go tell Melissa about the situation because I don't feel good about this. That was when Jen, her cue to tell her, and she's had many opportunities before then, but that was her cue to tell her, you know what, you don't have to say anything. We don't need to get into that because I've already told her she already knows. So there's no need to bring that up. No, she says, I don't want to come out. I don't want anything to come out. I want to get there. It was ridiculous. So it was definitely a setup. And of course, Teresa gets a chance to kind of put it out there because she's the one who had the conversation apparently with Jen, right? We're to believe how this chain of events went down. She doesn't say anything, lets Jen do the getting information out there because Jen don't mind being a town crier. And then Danielle is the stooge. And that is how that setup went. It was not very difficult. And, according to that text, Jacqueline did share allegedly that, and according to the text, I'll say allegedly according to the text, that, Teresa may not be the smartest person in the world, but she most certainly is a conniving one. And so there we go. That's where we're having it. Now, Teresa could say, I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. But Melissa was asked straight out from Andy, who do you blame for this whole entire situation? And she says, I blame Teresa for the fact that she brought my husband without talking to me to her house for this situation. Teresa says, I didn't do anything of a sort. I was going to leave. I didn't want to do it. That was Louis that wanted to kind of give you all forewarning. Nobody's believing that. No one's believing it. And also, too, she was like, I felt Margaret said something. Margaret had nothing to do with that whole situation. It was Laura that was apparently the one that was the bone gifter in that situation. It was Laura that got that information for Jen. Because you remember, Jen and Teresa met up with Laura. Now, obviously, Jen is hanging out with Laura because she's got, footage to tell. But at the end of the day, that's where we were at. Now, Andy asked Danielle. He didn't accuse. He didn't say that you must feel this way. He asked her, really, do you feel that you were set up? Because I don't think anyone could at all think that she was not set up. And you can see Danielle's face. And Danielle says, I don't think I was set up. No. Well, first she did ask, was I set up? And so Jen's going to sit there and say, yeah, we set you up, girl. We set you. Sorry, my bad. Sorry, our bad. And like Teresa's going to say anything. Look, Teresa is not worried about no newbie. At the end of the day, she was set up. Now you see her face. And Andy did say, I kind of have a funny feeling, Danielle, that when you leave here, you're going to feel a little bit differently as you kind of think about things all the way through. I think she was thinking about it because we do hear a bit of a mic drop moment in the back, which was like, when they have, they forget they have their mics on, and she says she was set up. But, we'll wait on part 3 because they will talk about that more there. But it was, and it was not so much a mic drop moment, but the whole situation was a mic drop moment, but a hot mic moment. Now, so that's where we're at. On that, it was insane. It was insane. It was wow, I was here for it. I rewounded that actually a couple of times and rewatched it over and over again because I just couldn't believe that was actually being admitted right then and there, that she was set up. So it's going to be interesting to see how things go for season winds up. But of course, Teresa says she's innocent of it all. Now, we talked about the blame. We also got a little bit of time with the guys as well backstage where Frank, is basically saying, look, I've never seen the ladies get into this much heated arguments, this much situations, this much, just drama in the situation. That really includes the men too. And the only common denominator of that situation, the only thing that's different, what is different? And it's Louis. So he's already put it out there because apparently there's going to be some issue with Frank and Louis as well. And it will be in a of the fact that Frank Jr. Was apparently supposed to be working for Louis in one of his companies. And then I guess he just, packed up the company. It was no longer available. And Frank Jr. was trying to get a hold of him. He could not get a hold of him. So he basically was ghosting him. This is all alleged. We'll hear more about that, I'm sure, in part 3. And then he calls his father. He says, hey, look, Dad, what am I supposed to do? So he's handling it from that point on, but he's obviously very upset, and I would be too, right? So that's what was going on with that. I'm sure we'll hear more about that situation. I don't want to get too far deep into what's going on with part 3 because we're going to be waiting for that for next week. Now, also, with all the bickering and everything going on with the ladies, the back and forth, talking about the Danielle setup and going back and forth about the cheating rumors and who did what and how they did it. Andy, of course, loses cool, yells at both the ladies to stop talking because he just had enough. He was trying to get his thoughts together, I guess. And he just wanted them to come to a certain point. They kept going back at each other. He says, you guys don't seem to grow and don't evolve. And that is so true. They have not grown and evolved. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's sad. And and maybe we will be at a position where either one or the other is going to be able to remain, or no one's going to remain, or because of all the foolishness that Louis is doing with calling, allegedly, contacting a private investigator, is going to take the whole show altogether. So, we'll have to see. But if that is what's going on, that needs to be put to stop right away. Now, we also have a couple of hitters at the end, where Margaret then also shares more in depth about why she left. I think for the most part left the wedding reception, or was it why she left the wedding reception? Because I don't know, she didn't really know about this. Well, anywho, she does talk about how she's becoming more angry and much more upset about the situation with Louis and Teresa. And the reason being is apparently Margaret's son was contacted too at his job, which is a landline, not able to be easily traced phone number. Somehow they got that phone number, and they've got the phone records, and it's got Louis's number there. Louis, I believe, is going to admit that that is his phone number in part 3, but we'll see there. So let's hold off for that. But yeah, apparently Margaret's got the police involved and lawyers involved, and lawyers have contacted Teresa. So Teresa's fully aware of what's going on here, even though Teresa didn't know about, whatever this alleged is, but she is aware of the fact that, yeah, it's being investigated and whatever else is going to happen from this point on. Because it was really, in essence, a threat, at the sense that, according to Margaret, what was being said is that, hey, look, that Louis is the one that she needs to be worried about. So, I guess Louis got his investigators apparently, or allegedly calling and contacting different family members and all this kind of stuff, threatening them behind the scenes. That's what it sounds like, allegedly. So we'll see what they have to say. I'm thinking that there's going to be a whole lot of denying of that situation, but we'll see. Maybe it won't. We'll see. But yeah, I thought that was pretty despicable if that's the case. Now, Andy did mention about some kind of a hack that was going on with the ladies' phones, where they were being called with the housewives' phones. But like Andy said, look, that may be happening, but whenever I pick up the phone and I see that it's the number, no one's on the other end. Teresa then says, well, actually, I have talked to somebody who's been on the other end. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Did they say something to her? Were they breathing on the phone? What was going on? Were they threatening her? What was going on? She didn't say. And so, of course, Melissa said, no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened, And of course, Teresa says, oh, yes, it is. We talked to the investigators, because, they got the investigators. We talked to the investigators and they said it could happen. So it's like, okay, a whole messing around. But, we'll get to the bottom of it, and Margaret most certainly will. And if nothing else, I bet you her son won't get called anymore if that's what's going on. It'll stop. Watch. If those phone numbers and that investigation call stuff stops, we'll know exactly what was on. But yeah, so that was going on there. And of course, Margaret and Teresa get into it. She says basically everything she feels about Teresa and Louis. And in fact, the more is less about Louis, that Louis is gaslighting her. Louis is, just awful to her. The things that he says to her, he belittles her, and this, that, and the other. So that was another match between the two that Andy was not able to control in the moment, and he kind of had to let that go for a second. Then we see, as that goes on into the sunset, the men are coming on stage. I'm ready for part 3. That's where I'm going to leave it. What are your thoughts? Are you excited for part 3? Do you think it's going to be a bonanza? I think it is. I'm ready for it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm looking for some answers. I want Louis to be able to tell us exactly what's going on. And at the end of the day, I'm telling you, if we're going into doing situations where we are hiring private investigators and all this stuff to threaten people and try to somehow control them into whatever narrative you want, I'm not here for it, because that's not a show for me, and that's not what this is about. So my opinion, my thoughts, I'm not even looking for a reboot on that. If that's what's going on, just let it go altogether. Let's just go on. I've enjoyed it. It's been a heck of a ride, but hey, I'm not here for any of that foolishness. And, I know some people may be, but I know I'm not. So, but that's that. But I definitely want to know your thoughts about everything. Let me know what you think about. Do you think that text is for real? It looked for real to me, but again, it's all alleged because we don't know. And I would like for Jacqueline to be able to say, her piece on that if Chris and her have that conversation, but I don't know if she will. She's probably not going to want to rock the boat either. And do you think that this is going to be some issue for Melissa? Do you think she has something to worry about? Like Dolores says, sleep with one eye open. Like, give me a break. I mean, I act like she shake down somebody. I mean, at the end of the day, if she said it, she said it. You own up to it. We are grown. I mean, oh my God, these women are grown. Why are we having this conversation? It's insane. Like, we can knock out our kneecaps. It's ridiculous. Anyways, so what are your thoughts about that? And Rachel's story. What do you think about that? I mean, are you shocked? Are you surprised about what Louis did? I mean, at the end of the day, Louis was talking about belittles and do littles and all that kind of stuff, and people that got everything and all things on all of these people. So, do you think he actually did contact the birth mother of Jaden, and how despicable that is if that is the case, if it was him or the private investigator? But yeah, that is quite a question for it. And then what else we talk about? Jackie and Jen, they look great. They look wonderful. And of course, I would like to know, do you think Danielle was set up? So important. That was the biggest one for me outside of the investigator situation. But that was the biggest ones for me, because I was just like, oh my gosh, we're actually seeing a whole setup, a whole thing below up right in front of us, right? Like Jen's situation just crumbled right in front of her. But it was funny. And I have to say, Jen has a little bit of comedic timing with her situation, even though she can get on your nerves sometimes. But she was like, look, I was waiting for her really to say, you know what, my bad. I did mess up. I did say something. But yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. But again, I enjoyed it. I hope you did. I appreciate you watching. If you are new to the channel, hey, go ahead and subscribe, be part of the family. We'd love to have you. Love to have the conversations in the chats and know what your thoughts are about these shows and what's going on in those shows. There's so much happening, and it's nice to be able to focus on something else other than the realities of life that may not always be so great. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Make sure you do check out number one, part one, and also be here for part three. So make sure you got that bell on, that notification bell, so you always know when a video is going up, whether I be going live or have a still video. Make sure that you be a part of it. I would so love to have you. And yeah, I think that's about it. And I'm about to wrap this up, but go ahead and give this video a like. I truly appreciate it. And I enjoy you taking some time with me today. And I guess until next time, I want you to make sure that you stay safe and yeah, be blessed. And yeah, hang out, have a good time. Make sure you're watching Vanderpump Rules. If you're into Vanderpump Rules, go ahead and watch it. I'm going to recap and review that. I'm excited about that because we're about to hear what's going to happen. And if you already know what's going on, what secret's going to be told, go ahead and drop that down, or what's your thoughts about that. But yeah, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and head on out of here. You have a great evening, and I will see you next time. Bye.